Alright guys, welcome to the first video in the series on builds for optimal open world meta event gameplay. And the first build I wanted to go over is a very foundational build. It is super powerful, and I'm playing it in a little clip here. You can see it Octavine, and that is the Might God Condi Tempest. This build is more than capable of keeping 25 Might and Perma Fury up on 10 players. It is the most potent Might stacking build in the game. And you might say, well, what's the big deal? Druid can do that. The difference is a Harrier Druid does 6k DPS, and this build does 25k DPS. This build is incredibly powerful at what it does. It doesn't have a place in raids and doesn't have a place in fractals, but in the open world, it is literally God tier. It is one of the most powerful, objectively powerful builds in the game, and anytime I see an Ellie at an open world meta event who isn't running this, it upsets me because they're not playing to their fullest potential. So with that said, let's get into it and let's talk about it. This is the open world Might God Condi Tempest build. Very straightforward gearing. Couldn't be easier. A lot of you guys probably already have the gear for this because you play Scourge, perhaps, and it's very similar gear, so let's go over it. Your trinkets and everything, it's just going to be all straight up Vipers. Your weapons and armor is Vipers, and it's just Vipers with Renegade runes on the weapon, on the armor. And then we have a Scepter with Bursting and a Scepter with and a Warhorn with Smoldering. Very simple, very straightforward. Optionally, you don't have to run Renegade runes. You could run Aristocracy runes if you want to go. If you want to take your Might stacking game to 11, you run Aristocracy runes. Since I have Legendary armor, I can switch between the two. I run Renegade runes when I'm at a meta event, and I believe that I will be one of the top 10 DPSers. If I'm playing this build and I go and I look at the people in the squad and I see a bunch of crappy Soul Beasts and crappy Reapers, and like base Rangers and who knows what other open world monstrosities are out there, I go, yeah, I'm probably one of the top 10 DPSers at this Octavine. In that case, it makes sense for me to skimp a little bit on the Might stacking and buff my own damage with the Renegade runes. However, if I'm in a more organized map and I'm running with a guild group of my guildies in Burn, I will recognize that there's probably other people who are going to have way higher DPS, and it would make more sense for me to try to upkeep Might, in which case I will switch to Superior Rune of the Aristocracy. This will allow you to keep 25 Might on well more than 10 people, because if you're in a big squad, your Might will overflow to the people around you. You are going to be able to keep up 25 Might on significantly even more than 10 people. So it's really good. And the gear, again, super straightforward. Most of you have a Viper Scepter. Many of you have a Viper's Warhorn, and a lot of you have light Viper's armor and trinkets because you play Scourge. If you are looking to switch it up from Scourge and play something in the open world that is a bit more supportive and more powerful, this is the way to go. So with that said, we will talk about traits. Alright, so the traits for this build are as such. We go with Fire, Arcane, and Tempest. In Fire, we're going to take Burning Precision, quite obvious. Pyromancer's Training. So there's some debate between Pyromancer's Training and Power Overwhelming. Power Overwhelming gives you a crap ton of Condi damage. However, the reduced recharge of Pyromancer's Training means your money skills like Wildfire, Dragon's Tooth, Phoenix, and Heatsink are going to be on a significantly shorter cooldown, which in the end will give you higher overall DPS. And we take Persisting Flames because it makes our money skills super, super good, Overload Fire, and Wildfire. In Arcane, we are taking Arcane Precision, which is awesome. Whenever we crit, we have a chance to inflict bonus burns. We're going to take fire shielding. If we get hit by something and our health drops below the threshold, we get a sweet free arcane shield, which will inflict burning, give us some bonus ferocity. It's just useful. Allows us to ignore damage for the most part. And then our elite is Elemental Surge, which is quite OP. Mostly, in addition to the burning and stuff that we get when we use our arcane power, it lowers the cooldown of arcane power, which is key. And then in Tempest, we're going to take Gale Song. The idea of Gale Song is that we don't want to get CC'd, and that is one thing that happens quite a bit at the open world meta events, especially Shaq Garrett with his swipes that knock people back. If you have Eye of the Storm, you can kind of ignore a swipe if you have high HP. Similarly, Harmonious Conduit, when we start channeling Overload Fire, we do not want to get interrupted. Getting interrupted when channeling Overload Fire, very bad. So Harmonious Conduit is the way to go. And then our Grandmaster is Imbued Melodies, which is amazing because it gives us boon duration. And boon duration is very good for making our might stack. And when our health dips below 90%, we extend the boons on everybody around us by 2 seconds, which is amazing, especially since it buffs the other support classes. If you have a Firebrand with you spamming Quickness, or a Chronos spamming Quickness and Alacrity, or a Renegade spamming Alacrity, if you just everything, it just makes everything better. So it's really satisfying. As far as slot skills go, Arcane Brilliance is great because not only is an arcane skill and it will inflict burning, but it does damage as well, and it's a blast finisher, which gives us more might. Signet of Fire is a very powerful damage skill. When we activate it, inflicts a lot of burning. Glyph of Elemental Power, even more burning. And then Arcane Power, super burning burst. And then Fiery Greatsword, which is a massive DPS buff. So one thing we want to do is show a little bit of how this build plays. It's very simple, very straightforward, hard to mess up. And I will give you a demonstration of that in just a second. Okay, as far as gameplay goes, it's very straightforward. You have 3 blast finishers on your bar, and you have 2 fire fields, and then you have Heat Sink, which copies your Might and Fury to 10 nearby allies. The long and short of it is you want to wait till you have a good amount of might, probably like, I don't know, over 17, but probably ideally you want to wait till you have like 22 to use your Heat Sink. You want to use your Arcane Brilliance on cooldown, you want to use Signet of Fire on cooldown, you want to use Glyph of Elemental Power on cooldown, and you want to use Arcane Power on cooldown. It's very easy. When these light up, press them. They are very powerful. They're more powerful than your auto attack, so use them. Dragon's Tooth, all these things are burst finishers. One of the best ways to stack might is to since Dragon's Tooth has a bit of a delay, you can cast your Dragon's Tooth before you start your fire fields, and that will give you a little bit more might. So like so, we go Dragon's Tooth, fire field, and then we have a couple blasts, another Dragon's Tooth, and then we're gonna overload fire, another Dragon's Tooth, bam, 23 might, then Heat Sink, boom. We have now just copied 25 might and 47 seconds of fury to everybody around us, while also dealing pretty good damage. So this is just very easy to play. For the most part, that's pretty much your opening is Dragon's Tooth, Wildfire, Dragon's Tooth Phoenix, and then Overload Fire, Dragon's Tooth, and then Heat Sink. That's sort of your opening, along with casting your skills on cooldown. So you can just repeat that and use your skills as they light up. Once the fight starts and starts going, you pretty much just want to cast your skills on cooldown. and don't really have to think too much about it. The big thing that you want to think about is Fiery Greatsword. So Fiery Greatsword, when you're holding it, gives you 180 Condi damage, so it's very powerful. What I like to do with Fiery Greatsword is I will start my rotation like normal, then drop the Fiery Greatsword, use number 5, use number 2, and then overload air and overload fire. Drop that, come back, and then continue doing my things. And then when the overload comes off cooldown, pick up the Fiery Greatsword, number 2, number 5, and then spin. So your first 2 overloads, you just want to make sure while you're holding the Fiery Greatsword while you overload. Number 2 is also a very powerful skill, so be sure to use that when you're holding it. Essentially, you just want to, on your first go-round, when you use overload air, be holding a Fiery Greatsword for that fat bonus Condi damage. And you get some pretty sick spikes. Additionally, if you're holding the Fiery Greatsword while your Arcane Power comes up, you're also doing pretty good. But that's it. Like, that's really all there is to the gameplay. You pretty much just want to keep those things in mind, like the Fiery Greatsword and Overload, and keep in mind your Blast Finisher order and making sure you're getting all your Dragon's Tooths in Blast Finishers. And that's it. That's all you really need to know as far as gameplay goes. One last thing I want to talk about is the food. So you should use food. I highly recommend food at meta events when you're tryharding, and anyone who's using this build should be tryharding. The food you're going to want to use is bowls of Fiery Meat Chili, 15% burning duration. That's really good, guys. And then Furious Tuning Crystals. Between the bowl of Fiery Meat Chili and the Furious Tuning Crystals, you hit 100% burn duration, and you're maximizing your efficiency. So yeah, that is really it, guys. The build's simple, straightforward, fun to play, and overpowered. So hopefully this gives some of you Ellie players something awesome you can be doing in open world besides walking around on Weaver and dying super easy and not doing a lot of damage because no one's buffing you. And then for other people who maybe wanted to give Ellie a try or wanted to play a more supporty build in open world and feel like they're making a difference, this is a build for you. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.